The year was 1998. Dirk Nowitzki came into the NBA in a time when big men were called soft if they weren't tough and physical enough. Well, of course, this was the standard. Big men were always supposed to bang bodies and score inside the paint. But if you think of it, Dirk was something that the league has never seen before. Well, don't get me wrong. He wasn't the first big guy who was able to shoot threes, but imagine this. He was a 7-foot shooting big man who scored from almost anywhere on the floor. If you put a legit big man on him, he'll just blow by him because he was agile enough to drive to the rim. And if you put a much shorter player to defend him, come on, he's 7 feet tall. He'll shoot over anyone. So you get the point. This guy's unlike anyone the NBA has seen before since he simply was a mismatch for almost everyone night after night. Well, as a kid witnessing what Dirk was doing in the court, I thought that all of this was unreal. But then, fast forward to more than a decade after, we see a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, a legit 6'11" big man who shoots 42, 40, and 41% from 3 in the last 3 seasons, and would simply be blown away. And mind you guys, this guy averages 7.9 3-point attempts a night, the same as Damian Lillard's career attempt average, and the guy's shooting it with great efficiency. And that is just mind-blowing for an NBA big. But is it really that big of a deal nowadays since the NBA has changed so much since the time of Hakeem, Shaq, or even Tim Duncan, when guys stuck their backs in the basket for years? Yeah, we are in the time of the modern space and pace era of basketball, but come to think of it, will all of these last for at least the next 20 years or even more? And will we ever get to see more and more big men revolutionize their game as we know it? What's good guys, it's Riro here, and in this video, we'll take a quick peek into the evolution of NBA big men as recently as we can trace. And we'll take a look at 2 of the most hyped big men prospects from overseas, Kai Sotto and Victor Wembanyama. And as early as now, let's ask the question, can these 2 guys actually advance the big man's game in the modern NBA as they enter the league in the near future? Let's get to it. For real, the post game is a dying art in the NBA, and this is all because the quote-unquote pace and space era in the NBA has begun. Well, the game has been faster and everything has been more complex. We're in a time where defenses have been much more strategic to the point that help defense has conquered basketball, and this made the usual dominant big man less effective in one-on-one post-up situations. Don't believe me? Well, the NBA has abolished the center position from the All-Star ballot voting since 2012, and this is all because the league has seen it clearly. The concept of the traditional big man is dead, and we're in the era of the new big man. But what exactly is a modern NBA big? Of course, one would assume that if a 7-footer can shoot, then he would automatically make it big in the league. But actually, more than shooting, I believe the modern NBA big relies more on athleticism if any. You see, there are still guys like DeAndre Jordan, Steven Adams, and Andre Drummond. These big men don't have perimeter games, but what they have is the ability to run the floor and the ability to defend and rebound well. Plus, these guys work well in the pick and roll, and if you're a modern NBA center, that's something you need to have. Yeah, the point is, teams nowadays prefer big men who've got the athleticism to at least set picks and finish well near the rim. And as much as people miss seeing the post-up game, big players seem to have transitioned into playing the face-up game. Nowadays, it's more common to see a big guy catch the ball 10 to 15 feet from the basket and use a combination of jumpers, dribble drives, and post moves to score, as compared to the usual banging of bodies much closer to the rim. Take Joel Embiid for example. The guy is a good post-up player who shows us back to the basket moves from time to time. However, his game has transitioned more into carving out space before catching the ball on his way to finesse and move around defenders. Plus, he shoots from deep as much as we see wing players shoot him today. Yeah, versatility among big men in today's NBA seems to be the real requirement, and if you're a tall guy who can't stretch the floor and you can't defend multiple positions, then chances are you're going to be sitting on the bench for a long time no matter how tough you are. Because evolution is simply the name of the game in the NBA. We've seen a guy like Blake Griffin transform his game since first playing in 2010. Remember when all this guy ever did was play near the rim, catching lobs and dunking the ball? Well, today, the guy is practically a versatile big man who shoots threes and creates plays for his teammates. Then you also got Anthony Davis, who is a very dominant post player, but then you can see him shooting from 3 more and more as years go by. Well, that's just how the game is today. Just by looking at the numbers, the average number of 3-point field goal attempts per team per game spiked by a whopping 28% from 20 years ago, and this has resulted in an average PPG increase of 15.3 points since the year 2000. Yeah, you get the point. The game just got faster and more complex all at the same time, and this changed the typical big man's game altogether. It's simply not enough to just be a behind-the-basket big in the NBA today. Just look at Jahlil Okafor for a moment. The guy was drafted 3rd overall in 2015 because he's a 6'11" monster in the paint and is a walking double-double. Despite having an impressive rookie year in Philly where he averaged 17.5 points and 7 rebounds a game, he eventually lost his minutes simply because he's slow and his reliability on every aspect of defense, whether it be on the pick and roll or the perimeter. Plus, he just can't switch like other bigs can do nowadays. Well, if it was 20 years ago, teams would simply run the offense through him and he would straight up dominate, but it's just a different era for bigs right now. But if you're looking for a back-to-the-basket center who will still thrive in the near future, there's DeAndre Ayton. The guy is 7'1" with the perfect build for a center, but he plays like the traditional big man who has a reliable strong post game and grabs rebounds as well. But how does he necessarily fit today's NBA? Well, it's because he has a reliable mid-range jumper and great athletic ability for a guy his size, and that's what the league wants to see. Yeah, the thing is, bigs nowadays can post up as much as they can, but for real, coaches more often than not would likely use them to space the floor and set picks because that's what beats teams in a modern basketball game. We're simply in a time where 3-point shooting and defensive switching is probably at its peak, and if we try to fast forward just a little bit and take a peek into the future, will we see the same from the next generation of NBA bigs? If we look at some of the most hype young big man prospects, then we might figure out where the game is headed. Well, there's this 16-year-old kid from France who's 7'3" with a wingspan of almost 8 feet. His name is Victor Wembanyama, and he's one of the most talked about prospects among NBA circuits most recently. Well, there's this longtime draft analyst from ESPN, Mike Schmitz, and according to him, Wembanyama is someone who blocks shots like Rudy Gobert and shoots like Porzingis, and that's literally mind-blowing if you come to think of it. A 16-year-old who has the combination of unreal physical tools, shooting skill and defensive timing is surely going to generate interest from tons of NBA teams. That is why Wembanyama is said to be the best big man prospect in the world for the next couple of years regardless of age. But for real, is he good enough to be the consensus #1 pick in the 2023 NBA draft? Well, if you look at the numbers that he's put up at 16 years of age, then it's going to be hard to think otherwise. As in the 2019 FIBA U16 Euro Championships, this kid averaged 5.3 blocks per game as he led France to a silver medal finish. And in the Under-18 Adidas Next Generation Tournament, which was held just this 2020, the kid put up per 36-minute stats of 20.7 points, 15.3 rebounds, 3.5 steals, and 7.6 blocks per game. And what makes this more mind-blowing is that he did all these playing against guys who were at least 2 years older than him. So you get the point. Wembanyama has shown so much potential to be an all-around threat if he can transition this kind of game into the NBA. Well, of course, it's too early to say if he's going to be the same beast once he faces the real competition in the future, and of course, he'll need to improve his frame to be able to compete in the NBA. But early signs point to him as a great fit in today's game simply because the guy has all the skills you can ask for in a big man. How many bigs in the league today can actually stretch the floor, protect the rim, and switch on defense altogether? Well, there's just a few of them, and yeah, Wembanyama's often been compared by scouts to Kristaps Porzingis, who we all know is this incredibly versatile big guy, but the difference is, this kid has all the handles and can put the ball on the floor just as good as the typical NBA wing. So you get the point why he's touted as the next big thing out there. But of course, all the talk is just hype, and we'd rather just wait maybe 3 more years before we see him play in the NBA. But another international big man prospect who'll most likely enter the league earlier than Wembanyama is Kai Sotto. Well, this kid is one of the most talked about prospects with all the hype surrounding him, and I'd say there's a reason behind all that. Sotto is just 17 and he stands 7'2" while having the same unreal combination of outstanding physical tools, all-around game, and a very profound basketball IQ. Well, this kid is primed to be the first full-blooded Filipino to play in the NBA, and by the looks of it, he'll be there as early as 2021. Kai Sotto has carved his dominance in the Filipino basketball scene from a young age, as when he was in high school, he led his Ateneo Blue Eaglets team to a UAAP championship as he averaged 17 points, 12.3 rebounds, and 6.3 blocks per game, while being named the Finals MVP. Then the year after, he also won the UAAP Season MVP award. Also, this kid isn't new to the international basketball scene either. As in the 2019 FIBA U19 Championships, he averaged a tournament best 3.1 blocks a game, which obviously made international scouts notice his abilities. And after a brief stint with Atlanta-based prep program The Skills Factory, where he earned the tournament MVP award in the King Invitational, Kai became the first international high school prospect to sign with the G League's new professional pathway program, which we know better as the G League Ignite team. And by this signing from the get-go, we know that the NBA itself already saw the potential in this kid, and this means that the league expects him to be a good big man once he gets drafted. And for real, the pressure to develop him would now also depend on the NBA itself because they took a risk on him, obviously. But based on the kid's skill set, it looks like he would fit right into the modern NBA, because if you look at it, Sotto plays like a traditional big man with his post and pivot moves and all that, but he has a different side to his game as well. And based on reports, this kid cites guys like Olajuwon and Tim Duncan as his main influences, and you can definitely see that in his game because of how he moves around the basket. But to me, what's more impressive is that this kid has an advanced passing ability for his age, and it seems like he already knows how to work around double teams when he gets the ball on the block, simply because he has the footwork as well as the scoring and shooting ability, which is a plus for any big man today. But if he's going to up his game to the next level, then Kai will most likely need to be able to get more comfortable with switching on the defensive end, because that's just how big men are expected to move nowadays. But you know, the skill set is already there, and it's just scary just by looking at how this kid has so much weapons in his game on both offense and defense at a young age. And it might not be long before we see another Pabz or a Nikola Jokic type of player emerge. A guy who can shoot the lights out from anywhere, who can be a good passer at the same time. Yeah, just by looking at these two young big man prospects, you know that the game is definitely at the crossroads. It's now becoming more and more normal to see legit 7-footers who can shoot threes, throw no-look passes, run in transition and dribble from top of the key. And this is all because the game has changed so much. But how much more it will change moving forward is up to the next generation of bigs. And this is why the future of NBA big men is becoming more and more intriguing. Of course, right now there are guys like Kristaps Porzingis, Bam Adebayo, and even potentially Bol Bol who are just complete unicorns. But in my opinion, we aren't even in the final stage of the NBA big man's evolution yet. And the truth is, we just might be in the beginning right now. And you just gotta wonder, is the NBA even ready to see a legit 7-foot pure point guard in the near future? Well, at the rate things are going, I think we are very, very close. Thank you guys for watching until the end, and please don't forget to drop a thumbs up if you like this video. Also feel free to drop a comment down below, and please subscribe to the channel because it helps me reach the entire NBA YouTube community. Again, this is Riro, and I'll see you until the next one. Peace.